got a following. Hi, Lane.
Hi.
Aloha. Dr. Drake. Mr. Biggie. Okay, let's see here. Hey, brother man, you squeezing every last bit of light out of the sky? True farmer.
There it is.
Hi, Katie. I'm going to make you co-host.
Thanks.
Okay.
She's been a huge help.
After what?
Katie, could you put on the program, the new one? You have the new one from Don? Okay, cool. And after you do that, Katie, give everybody some housekeeping about the chat and questions and all that stuff, please.
Yeah, welcome everyone. So we're going to get started very soon with the incredible Cab Baber and his presentation on Bokashi and soil management, among other things, I'm sure. If you have any questions for Cab throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat feature. Please post to everyone, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. If you have any tech questions or concerns, you can chat me, Katie Zuber, the co-host here. I'm lucky enough to work for the Hawaii Farmers Union United. I'm the communications and membership chair. So if you ever, what was that?
Extraordinaire.
Oh gosh. If you ever email HFUU or message us on social media, that's me. So speaking of which, if you ever have anything you'd like us to email out to our members or post on social media, please let me know. I'm happy to share any and all ag related info. So without further ado, I'll pass things off to our president, Vincent Mina, and thank you all for being here.
So aloha, everybody. Thank you, Katie. And real excited about tonight's presentation. We had Cab there last night on our hemp panel, for those of you who tuned in. And he's back again tonight talking about one of his favorite things besides his beautiful wife, Gail, Bokashi. And we have, this is close to my heart in the spirit of being a manager of the rhizosphere, that top 7 inches of the soil that we really need to continue to learn how to enliven so we can grow the healthiest plants to keep ourselves well. And, this is the pre-convention, the last pre-convention presentation to where next Wednesday, all of our chapter presidents from across the islands will be convening on Maui at Haleakua Retreat Center. And we're going to arrive on Wednesday, and then Thursday morning, we start off with Christopher Nesbitt out of Belize, Colombia, and on agroforestry systems. And there's a wonderful man on Kauai that I just connected with, John, I forget how to pronounce his last name, Pacelli, I think it is. Anyhow, he's on Kauai, and he's also doing agroforestry systems. So him and Christopher and John and I are going to get on a Zoom call and kind of work it out to where John could present with Christopher, because I really want to have Hawaii systems also presented in that spirit. But Christopher has been at it for a very long time, and he's quite a character and a leader, kind of the tip of the spear there in Belize, Colombia. So that'll be an exciting presentation. And that's at 10 o'clock on Thursday, December 9th. Friday, December 10th, we got Dan Kittredge. Dan is a amazing young innovator, inventor, who our mutual friend Jerry Brunetti, we would have conversations about creating a nutrient density meter, and Dan has run with that. And so the meter that he does have out, which I'll be receiving, I think in mid-December, it's coming, it tests for bioflavonoids and antioxidants and has a crop index for 10 crops. And so that's on the path to having an actual nutrient density meter, which is really going to be the game changer in agriculture, because then farmers will be able to quantify the nutrient density in their food. So it's not just having an organic sticker on your food, it's actually having the fact that what the nutrient density is in your food. So that's going to be a big game changer in that respect. And then Saturday morning, Ray Archuleta from Kiss the Ground, the movie, And Ray is a brother, man. He's he's a retired NRCS extension agent who's just done so much great work in the community. I love Ray's line. I use it all the time when he says, you know, we're here to emulate nature's architecture. I think it's really a beautiful thing, and that's what Cab's going to be speaking about tonight. And then in the we'll have lunch, and then in the afternoon we're going to have our farm presentations. And I've seen some of the drafts, some of the rough cuts coming out of Akaku TV. They've done a wonderful job on these farm videos, these and demonstrations that are associated with them. And then the farmers will be there at the site, at the retreat center, to answer questions and stuff after their presentation, their farm video is shown. So these are going to be really enlivened convention several days. We're going to have an opportunity for our board, like I said, to be physically all there together. So after the farm presentations, we're going to have our strategic planning meetings with our board. And it's always great to get us all physically together, because these are leaders throughout the state who are committed to not only their own farms and operations, but to a regenerative agricultural system being created here in Hawaii. So with that said, I want to turn it over to my brother of a different mother, Cab Baber. And Cab is a leader and geez, Cab, what, over 4 decades of farming?
Yes, sir. Right here in Hawaii.
There you
Plus.
go. There you go. He's co-founder of HOFA and one of the founding members. As a matter of fact, I got to be president after the year Cab was president. And so we go back together a long time. And if we're, you know, doing this service work in the community. And so I'm really happy that he's on tonight, closing out our pre-convention presentation. So, hey, Lizzie's in from Colorado. All right. And Peter from up the street. We got a great group here tonight. Hi, Valerie. All right. You guys enjoy. Cab, have a great one.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a short movie I'd like to start off with, and then we'll go into our presentation, and we'll take questions after we're all done. Hope everybody enjoys what we have, and be ready to rock your world and change what you might believe. And here we go.
Aloha, I'm Clarence Baber. My friends and people call me Cab. I grew up farming with my aunt Summers, and I've been living in Hawaii since the 70s, farming here for more than 40 years organically. I took a break from engineering and said I would chase the waves for a moment in Hawaii. And when I came here and found a piece of land, I decided to stay. Hawaii Herb Association was a state organization that founded organic techniques at growing crops commercially for sale. I wanted to learn more about them. After the Herb Association was defunct, it was translated into Hawaii Organic Farmers Association, which we were charter members of. And then we also had a Hawaii Hemp Council because we knew sugar was going out and we needed to offer a replacement. As a farmer here in Hawaii, I have watched the farming industry, and I've been a grower organically, passionately for a very long time, for 40 years. And I am based my understanding in fermentation and rock minerals to fortify their soil so we create high quality microbial structure that gives us the best result in food production and everything else that grows. I do provide consulting services for people that are interested in getting highest quality products. Whether it's a fine estate or 50,000 acres of corn, I try to see what systems are in place and complement them with the microorganisms that we know will be very helpful in creating greatest value in their crop and greatest crop amounts and fertility increase as opposed to decreasing, and water retention. And we try to improve the farmer's life quality by his crop quality improving. In my consultations, I usually experience a 15 to 30% increase in production if we're talking produce or product. My approach as a consultant is really to translate anybody's current operation into its highest quality potential with the best microorganisms we know in the world. And that's what I like to be able to do, is help out, reduce costs, and improve the operation. So I go into the garden and I have materials that I bring in. And so I haul in logs and have them chipped up. So I'll let them sit around for quite some time and just static digestion. So the bugs and everything are taking them apart, and then we get that dirt. And till-free is very useful at leaving the ground structures of the microbes in place and intact. Building healthy microbial structure will help unlock certain nutrients. We may add some important nutrients to help that begin, and it's okay to start the cycle. But once the cycle begins, the phosphorus and other nutrients that we do have can be unlocked. And therefore, if you look at it all like a big sponge, that big sponge can now absorb moisture when it comes and is a greater way of dispersing the nutrients through the land as well. Polycropping is using more than one species in the field. Diversity is key to plant resilience because we have so many species that have been monocultured or even tissue cultured and monocultured that this becomes a very delicate balance at food production or reliance. So the microbiome of the soil is greatly enhanced by the multitudes of roots of various kinds that are going through the soil. And so those roots are intertwining with each other and they're sharing nutrient. The fungi are going into the soil's root, the plant's roots, and sharing nutrient. So we create a really solid food soil web. And this is what holds lots of moisture and gives you great results. And through the whole field, you'll see any areas that may lack a nutrient get nutrient once this soil mat is performed. It's really good. If we can eat from food that's grown in a till-free situation, this is the highest nutrition on the planet. In the late 90s, I learned about EM technologies from Tim Lloyd in Honau Now. So Bokashi is a fermentation that orients out of Japan, and it is a grouping of microorganisms that's the most effective that we know of on the planet. So Bokashi is very useful at many things agriculturally. And in New York City, for example, it was very helpful at pioneering rooftop gardens for food because we need to have a thin soil and we could compose it with Bokashi microorganisms and get great results on rooftops. So this decreases water needs where sometimes they don't even have water. And projects in Canada where they're growing cannabis, or in California where they're growing commercial marijuana. All these places can highly benefit with the best microorganisms, and properly put in, they do the work, and when I go away, they continue to do the work. It has application in multiple ways. It started out with farming, but then I realized from its technology that it would go to all these others currently used in cleaning up the Hawaii Canal, for example. So these EM technologies are used around the world already in more than 100 countries, cleaning up waterways, helping clean up farms, piggeries, chicken operations. All of these have no smell when you're using the effective microorganisms in the program. Plus, you're going to get greater and higher quality production out of that as well. I have an agricultural sprayer, so all the areas that we have tended, we have sprayed microorganisms out. These microorganisms are going to give us a greater speed of nutrient uptake than any other type of farming, especially when we do till-free. We keep our microorganisms in the soil intact. I try to achieve highest quality soil because the best soil is going to grow the best plants wherever we are. In that, I have learned that if we add certain things like microorganisms and biochar and minerals of suitable nature to a property, we can gain the water retention that we're looking for. The soil fertility will actually grow in place. We can create a paradise of soaking up water out of the air even. So the idea of making the best soil is really where it's at. I'm Clarence Baber. My business, Island Herbs and Hawaii Rural Hemp. Aloha.
Now, wait a minute, Cab. Wait a minute. Were you using an airless sprayer?
What? Wait, what?
Were
Yes.
you? Oh, that's awesome, brother. That's cool. I love
Dude,
it.
you ought to have one for your operation. there.
I have one. I never thought about using it like that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
like using my cement mixer as a Dremel. You know,
Yeah, right. And if you use that twice a day and spray out your effective microorganisms, you will be amazed. I'm
there
sure.
you go. And will it grow my hair back?
Yes, it will.
All right. Well, there we go. All right. I've been trying to get Blue Mountain to give me some of his hair, but he won't give it to me.
Not yet, huh?
Okay. Okay, so let's do this, Cab. Good, beautiful video. Is that your daughter that did that?
Yes, a young man we know did that, and
Oh,
very
okay.
good job. We're very thankful for Kai's help.
Right on. Well, that was beautiful video. Thank you so much, man. And that abundance out of your garden, man. Whew, baby. Somebody stop me.
Yeah,
Right
it's pretty beautiful. Thank you. So we'd like to begin our presentation tonight about EM Bokashi and show you how it goes. I'd like to, talk about how many agricultural practices around the world have had fermentations involved with them. Even Hawaiian style, we have recipes from Bishop Museum about breadfruit and things like that being stored in large ipu gourds inside caves, lava tubes to create microorganisms that then they would pour that liquid on top of sweet potato, and then sweet potato would become a protein as opposed to just a starch. So we know that the Hawaiians were using them, and Japanese have been after this for a long time as well. So this grouping that comes from Japan is very powerful, and that's why we're really hopeful to see this spread out for a little bit. Bokashi and effective microorganisms will help healthy people, healthy soil, clean water, maintain a diverse balance of community of microorganisms within them. So we're going to try to set up a balance of microorganisms, not just the same microorganisms that live around the world everywhere, but the proper balance, or the best balance. How do I say? When I say EM tonight, I'm going to be referring to effective microorganisms, the microbes that are in Bokashi, and found in nature everywhere: lactic bacteria, yeast, and phototrophic bacteria. This balances and supports local and native microorganisms that live in the soil, water, and maximizes their power. I had this demonstrated to me clearly when I asked the question at our EM conference a few years ago, well, what's the difference between IMO and EM? And of the 15 different microbes we looked after in the EM world, EM International did the research, we found that IMO was number 2 and EM was number 1, and all the other were very done well, but improvement in crop. But EM gave us the greatest crop improvement because of the amount of remediation of particularly nematode, root knot nematode. And here in Hawaii, that's a big challenge. And so by putting out the Bokashi, we're helping remediate that terrifically. And IMO in the field and EM Bokashi in the field, if we start them both on either side, when they meet together, EM dives deep and IMO rides on the top, and then they still mix and go with each other hand in hand and do a really great job. So that's why we really appreciate the IMO and the EM setting up a lattice work, or an ability for EM to propagate and IMOs to also propagate. So effective microorganisms brought to us and proven technology by Dr. Higa in the 60 years plus research in the universities. He determined optimal combination and concentrations of microorganisms that are present around the world. So it wasn't just a particular grouping, but it was the amount of the grouping, so that they stayed a self-sustaining grouping of microorganisms. Organisms' waste is food for another in symbiotic balance. So the waste is eaten by one another to keep the balance in check. And so if they encounter an obstacle, they can eat that obstacle and then go back to eating each other's waste and maintain a healthy soil structure and countering any problems or improving health of the soil because of their interactive work. Dr. Higa was an agronomist. He was doing research on oranges, and doing his doctorate, he almost had serious health challenges dealing with the chemicals, and wanted to find alternatives to the toxic side, and also realized that modern agriculture just had some serious challenges, and we needed a better way to actually farm. He was a vigorous composter back in his day, like many of us were. And so finding a way to get higher quality nutrition into the soil without as much work is really what we're after. And that's what happened when Dr. Higa found this grouping of microorganisms. Effective microorganism EM technology establishes beneficial and effective microorganisms, maintains soil and plant health, maximizes food nutrition. And the food nutrition meter is coming up, and I'm really looking forward to this. We've been talking about this ever since we set up our gardens in Honau now many years ago. And it is about nutrient-dense soil that will also provide nutrient-dense food. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that always pans out. Supports other localized indigenous microorganisms. EM is optimal grouping of microbes found everywhere. So we're not introducing anything new or strange to our environment. It's just the proper grouping and the amount that we apply. Used around the world in over 180 countries currently. USDA and state approved for use in the sale in the state of Hawaii. It is absolutely safe and healthy. Can be ingested regularly, no health risks to farmers. So if I spray this out, and I've been using spray guns for applications on properties and farms for many, many years, using this and getting it on your skin or anything like that is not a problem. In fact, it can make you more beautiful. So it's important to realize that what we're dealing with is something that's very healthy for all of us. How EM Bokashi helps farmers. Break down nutrients in soil and make them more available. So we're going to get more nutrient out of our soil, which means less fertilizers need to be applied as well. Reduces need for import fertilizer and minerals. So if I was used to applying, say, a ton per acre of some type of nutrient or mineral or whatever, I could reduce that down to a 1/4 ton per acre per annum. So it's a very big savings that way, and we're going to get a higher quality product out of that at the same time. Optimal nutrient uptake reduces fertilizing needs, and food is more nutrient rich. And again, if we can be more nutrient rich, that's really how food will be rated in the future. Not if it's organic, not how it's made, necessarily grown, till-free or whatever, but it has to be nutrient dense. And that's going to be a huge thing in the future, because that means real nutrition and not just buying a water balloon that looks nice. Create a filament network, which helps transport water and nutrients within the soil between plants, reducing irrigation needs. So this is really near and dear to my heart. I had accounts different places. I had one down by a hotel here in the desert on the Big Island. And basically I turned the water off for 3 months on that account. And in that I saw terrific growth, while the neighbors on their chemical programs were still watering their zones 20 minutes every day. And this is because we had developed that high quality structure. We have this water that comes in from the coast at 5:30 in the morning, and our sponge in the ground soaked it up. So we've seen up to 55% reduction in water usage because of the use of and the development of this network. Increased food production quality, allowing more ag land to be converted back to forests, native food. This is also, we've seen terrifically, especially here in Hawaii. We have so much ag land that's been opened up, and we have pasture lands as well that now many people are realizing we need to reforest. I'm seeing a lot of people pushing that. Parker Ranch over here is pushing forestry. A lot of independent owners are pushing forestry. And even cattle, we know we can do with 10% of the pasture land and still produce all the beef we need for Hawaii. So it is about proper management. And once we plant our trees back in there, we'll have more water as well in there. And this is going to help our forest trees and such come back in as maybe a third less time. So that's the biggest thing we want to see in forestry is a third reduction in the amount of time it takes to actually grow a forest. And so we really need some forests, especially again here on the Big Island. We had such a tough fire, but now we can increase just the health of that land by putting out a spray or putting out particle of Bokashi, and this will encourage our forests to come back in a vibrant way. Effectively combats pests up to 75%, only thing some folks use. Increase crop yields 15 to 30%. So if you are really clear about your applications of your EM and you spray regularly, like I like to, you will see major reduction in pests. And if you go ahead and make another ferment we call stochu out of the bokashi and the EM liquid, you can also make your own insect protection, which is, I'm going to say 99% effective. We don't talk about 100%, nothing is quite that, but we do see a really great factor improvement in crop infestation and pressures. We talked about reducing water usage up to 55%. This also makes stronger and tougher plants when they are not needing water or they have the ability to pull water out of the soil. Then you're getting higher quality and nutrient denseness without the water exchange, which is another topic. EM can save farmers money and time, freeing farmers for more available for their family, community, and the time for creative and spiritual pursuits. This is one of the biggest things I have been attracted to in the EM world. I've been a hands-on farmer. I don't use many power tools. I don't use a tiller. I don't drive a tractor. I push a wheelbarrow really well, and I move a shovel really good. And in that, I pile and layer materials. And so the idea of this being able to be used by small farmers, have high quality nutrient food, and also have a high quality of life. Our farmers of the world, even Dr. D, as we saw him tonight, we squeeze every little bit of light out. We get up early, and that's just what we do. But this is designed for us to make sure we take a day off out of the week and spend that with our family and spend that with our creative pursuit or our spiritual time. So that's a thing I really do appreciate about this whole understanding technology. Many uses: mediates pollutants found in the soil, non-organic fertilizers and other toxic wastes, including radioactive. Fukushima, they've been putting this out and using it there. Tons have been dumped into Tokyo Bay to eat up sludge, and supports till-free farming, and which reduces labor and fuel costs, remediates groundwater and water body pollution, increases soil moisture up to 55%, decreasing water usage and bills. So just by having that soil food web, our soils that have been treated well and have that microbial structure will hold that water and just make it so it's much easier to translate water and, again, nutrient to the plant, even when there's challenging times. Rehabilitating microbe communities throughout of balance, the garbage and release of sewage toxic waste, flooding in Poland, fire engines disperse, rebalance microbes. So if we have challenges like we had in Haiti and other places, we can treat the entire place and reduce all kinds of disease challenges just by putting these microbes out and letting them eat up the challenge and balance out the current grouping that might have been upset by a flood or an earthquake or something of that nature. Mitigating water pollution. Now, this is very huge to me. As we already know, Waimea Canal is well onto this. We can see here how much water per day we can treat here on the Big Island, for example. And a few years ago, I said, we need to flush this down every toilet on the Big Island, since we do have sewage and cesspool challenges. And this can immediately begin to remediate water that is going into our coastal system, into our water system, and cleaning up our groundwater at source point is the most effective way to really treat and begin. And these microbes are going to go deep into the ground and into the pores of the lava, and they're going to do a tremendous job at cleaning up this water where we can't reach it with any kind of chemical or anything else that might help us clean it up. So having live activity and a combined effort, we have the ability to do this. We have the resources here in Hawaii to do this. And not only the Big Island, I'll say all islands need this kind of remediation. And we can figure out how that would go into process of how it can be made and distributed and all those wonderful things. But it's important to know that we have been holding back for many years on allowing this to happen, waiting for a federal approval. And now that we can use it for cleaning up the Waimea Canal, we can also start using it for many cleanup situations in
Wait,
Hawaiian
wait.
Islands.
Hold on. Just trying to find the Alawai Canal.
We went through it already.
We did?
Yeah, it was in a previous slide.
No, we missed it.
It was in a previous
Oh,
slide.
sorry, honey. Okay.
I will say that when I watched our movie again tonight and I see this beautiful soil, I'm still humbled by how beautiful Mother Nature does her work. And back to how the EM has really, helped save the world and make a healthier place. It binds and coats pollutants, including radioactive waste, and mediates toxic sites polluted by past ag practices. So in the case of arsenic, for example, it'll put like a cocoon around that lump of arsenic so that it's not interactive with the soil around it or the plant roots around it. So we could still have production from really tough rudeness to the land and still be healthy and safe coming out of that as well for crop production. Helps crops tolerate climate change more successfully, withstanding higher temperatures, requiring less water, more drought tolerant. So again, if we just have a plant that is able to uptake greater nutrient and establish itself in a water system that it creates through the microbials around it, we're going to get a lot more benefit when the heat does come. We'll have a lot better chance of tolerating heat and cold either way, wind as well, especially here in Hawaii. Helps feed our planet with quality food while restoring soil health. Now, as we know, food production of all kinds has been very destructive to our soils, which is not the intention. The intention is to be producing food and construct our soils. And we need to leave at least 12 inches of dirt a year behind, or actually in a lifetime. If I can leave 12 inches of dirt behind in a lifetime, then families will eat after that. So we really need to restore this health of our soil so we get to that nutrient-rich farming. The microbes make nutrients more available and help with uptake, maintains balance, pest problems less likely and less severe. Systemic chemicals no longer needed. Synthetic fertilizers, often included chemical and biological contaminations. These can all be remediated. And years ago, when we had the Hawaii Organic Farmers Association was very concerned when people wanted to have their land certified, for example, in the Hamakua. And this is a farmland that had been heavily hit hard by cane for a number of years. And it was difficult for me to certify those farms. And I thought it would take quite a long time before they could be certified. Now, with the technologies we have with EM, we could see serious remediation within 3 years. And if someone were vigorous, maybe even sooner than that, and have really clean land that you're producing high quality, nutrient dense food and fruits from. Increased food production, quality and quantity, allows more ag land to be converted back into forest native food. So that's again where we want to go, is plant more forests as part of this whole program. And if you can see some of the slides of our farm, we have trees that are growing in our field, which means we'll eventually have a forest in that garden as well. How Bokashi helps heal the world, supports more balanced lives, which increases individual capacity for peace and happiness. EM designed to decrease work and farming costs. Extra time can be spent with family and creative and spiritual pursuits. So as you can see in this slide, we have a really wonderful grouping of plants growing there, all along with our primary crop, in this case is our hemp. And we have just blessed with a sundry of great vegetables along with this crop, where there's not many people right now that are even practicing till-free farming, much less hemp till-free farming. That's monocultured widely. And so by giving this combination, not only I think aesthetically it looks beautiful, but here again, we've got an assembly of different crops that we're harvesting out of there. So Bokashi supports microbes, IMOs, and insects, and they create 1 to 8 inches of soil per year with their insect frass, organic matter when they die, and bodies from mycelium. So I've had this demonstrated to me in different places, and it's very difficult to grasp as a human being sometimes. But whether or not I haul in a bunch of material like I do for my gardens, or I just put a nice mulch on top of an estate. And I come back in 5 years, and where there was no soil before, there was just red cinder, and I put mulch over it. After 5 years, there's actually 5 inches of black dirt that is growing beautiful gardens. And I didn't bring that dirt in. And yes, I brought in wood chips once a year, but that doesn't make 5 inches of black dirt. So I've been clear that this soil is growing in the ground, the living and dying of the microbes, and that's gathering more organic matter year to year. We see this in the cornfields and other places very clearly, organic matter doubling every year. So that's another reason why our nutrients are delivered well, and also our moisture is retained well. Beautiful. I like this garden. Here we are. Very Bokashi Production is simple and powerful. Effective microorganisms and molasses are mixed together, and that water is then mixed with a substrate, rice bran, hay, mill run, wood chips, different things, in a closed container. We usually like to compact that if we can, and make that enclosed container airtight as possible. 5-gallon bucket or even a tote can be used. Anything that we can make fairly airtight is really good. Also, I can make 30 yards at a time with just a big sheet of 100 by 20 black plastic, and also give a very good fermentation. Fermentation time depends on substrate, but pretty much 3 weeks, we're good to go. Some can happen a little bit sooner. After that, if you're going to store your bokashi, like I have what we put in the stores for food processing around the Big Island, is we spread this out in the sun and we dry it, and then it's stable when we put it in our bag and can be used at any time. So that's another way to kind of stabilize it. Wet bokashi is really good for farmers to put right back into the ground. It's very active then, and very going to do the best job. You don't necessarily have to dry that out, but for kitchen waste processing and further use for making teas, it's really nice to have that dry bokashi. And here we are, the dry bokashi in the bag. And if you can take note of all these wonderful things, I just think it's so cool to have a list of things that a product will do that it actually does. There's many products out there that'll claim things, but this one, if we read this off, EM Bokashi promotes growth, flowering, fruiting, and ripening in crops. EM Bokashi enhances the photosynthetic capacity of plants. EM Bokashi increases the efficacy of organic matter as fertilizer. EM Bokashi develops resistance of plants to pests and disease. EM Bokashi improves the physical and chemical biological environment of the soil. So all of these things are big bonuses to any farmer, as we heard from Paul Stamos last year saying he felt EM Bokashi was the farmer's best tool. So we have minimum recommendations for potted plants. Mix 1 cup of bokashi per gallon of soil. Use 1 gallon per 100 square feet in a cover garden. And lock into the soil with some kind of mulch. Compost accelerator, layer and mix with compost. In that, you may 1 gallon per 100 gallons of compost material. Mitigate manure smells and other odors. Sprinkle bokashi on strong odor areas and cut by 95%. To treat systems, flush 1 cup down the toilet. These are all pretty much basic ways to use bokashi. There are other creative ways to use it as well. We can soak it with herbs and say a neem seed cake and make wonderful foliar sprays that will help increase the growth rate and health of the plants, as well as cut down and mitigate on disease and
Tell me
insects.
about the pasture and the work.
So part of my work is to spray this beautiful nutrient tea with effective microorganisms on the grounds of either pastures or farms, 5 of the states. And so I had an opportunity to work a pasture that had very high-end horses, and the owner was very concerned about the horses because of their cost and how much they babied them. And so as I was spraying in the field, they're asking me, well, are the horses really liking this? Is this going to be okay for them? They're very concerned that, they might get some kind of illness or something from this. And I said, no, they're more than fine. And as we looked out there on the land, we could see the horses were not only licking the ground, but they're actually rolling on the ground on the freshly sprayed areas. So they just, their manure is going to smell less, their coats are going to get shinier. Usually when we have a barn situation, I say, please give some Bokashi in their feed and make sure we get it to the oldest or senior mare. And if you give it to like the senior mare and maybe a barn of 30 animals, you see a 30-year-old mare pick up her tail and start running again, and her eyes come clear, and her mane and her coat just comes shiny again. And so it's amazing what it does for our animals and animal husbandry.
But you had lab results from that horse owner, right? It balanced the horse's microbiome because they quit doing, what were they quit doing?
Well, that's the other thing. We did experience that here on the Big Island. We had applications in horse barns. And so when we raise horses, there's usually a vet that's going to give a check twice a year for parasites. So once we started this, using it, there was no need for parasitic application. If the check is good, we don't really need to put the animal through that kind of stress. And even though it's not as stressful as some chemicals, like ivermectin are pretty mellow on the animal. If they don't need it, they don't need it. So what's important is if you have, say, a piggery and you're doing the same kind of thing, the animal is going to excel at its production and growth rate, and it's going to have a cleaner, happier, healthy life as well along the way. So Bokashi is going to be a big addition to any project, whether it's growing food or raising animals or water purification, anything, smells. The biggest thing I appreciate is like piggeries that you can walk through that have no smell. And we see this in the Korean natural farming. I've jumped into piggeries barefooted with Korean natural farming, where normally I would think that was a pretty nasty and tough situation, but there's no problem in this whatsoever. You feel very comfortable at being able to interact with a farm or animals because there's no manure smell and there's nothing to feel challenged by contaminant wise. So I really appreciate that. And even commercial operations don't necessarily have to go to a deep litter program, and they'll still benefit highly from this application, whether it's just closing down their barns and such. They can use this to pre-treat their system. So if they're going into, say, slush ponds, they can then take that and pump it right into fields of corn, for example. They don't have to have much of a digestion time because it's treated on the way. And if you set it up right, they could be growing the corn, for example, for a piggery off the manure that comes out of that piggery. And again, it's just a standard style piggery. It's not necessarily a deep litter system, which is preferred by the Korean natural farming techniques. And I like that system as well. So the kitchen waste processing is one of the biggest things, and I'm very impressed by the recycling of kitchen waste. We have a lot of people that compost, and now we have Bokashi that we can ferment our kitchen waste. And in a 3-week time, instead of turning a compost for many months, in a 3-week time, we can have a ferment that is 71% available to plants, as opposed to compost, which is about 21% available to plants. And so in this, we layer our EM Bokashi as we put in our kitchen waste, and that would be the dry Bokashi, not necessarily a wet one, but dry and stable. And this will create a situation of food storage that also can be used as a human nutrient. So as I learned it from Dr. Higa, in Japan, they collect an entire city's kitchen waste that has been digested with Bokashi at home, and they collect it in a single truck. They grind it all up, they mix it with a Bokashi that's already been made previous, and so it's ready in 24 hours, and it is bagged up inside a storage facility. Now, this storage facility has enough Bokashi in it to feed the town of 10,000 people for 6 months. So in other words, if we had a complete wipeout of all food stores and no foods were coming in, these bags of Bokashi, a scoop of Bokashi would make a bowl of soup that you would get for your daily sustenance if there was no food around whatsoever. And in this case, Bokashi would actually improve people's health to a degree. People might lose weight and other health maladies might disappear because of the quality nutrition they would experience. So having a system that then could utilize the extra bokashi that is now not being stored for the population at large. The secondary use would be for animal husbandry, so we can feed that to animals, improve their quality of life and production. And then third, it becomes a high quality nutrient fertilizer at a very low cost to the farmer. And so then the nutrient rich vegetables are cycled back through that same community. In this, we create our circular activity with the farmer. So now the farmer doesn't have to spend a lot of time on other inputs, and the high quality vegetables and produce come back to the city at large as they cooperate together. So this is very important. I see this is also done in Costa Rica. They give you a bucket, they give you bokashi, and they say, please make your kitchen vegetables, your kitchen waste, everything can go in there, meat, fish, vegetables, fruit, everything can go in there. And then they'll take that and make fertilizer out of it for their farmers. In this certain city areas, they won't take your regular trash if you don't put it, if you put your kitchen waste with the trash, they will need it separate. And so there'll be a consequence if you don't use your bokashi buckets in those cases. So a national system like that is something we need to support. I believe all farmers can really benefit from that. We see a lot of piggeries have been doing this for a number of years, and other operations still fermenting. Any of this waste that we get will make it much, much improved. Now, we've done some tests with kids, like demonstration, whatever you call it, wherein we make sandwiches. And we like to eat and celebrate when we're having education. So we make sandwiches, and we make 2 sandwiches. And we put all the fixings on these sandwiches, and lettuce and tomatoes and onions and mustard and mayonnaise and your slice of meat or cheese, all the goodies. And so then we'll put them, we'll put one with bokashi on it as well. A little bit of bokashi on the sandwich. Now we seal them both up, and we put them into a brown paper bag as if we were off to school to have our lunch at school someday. Well, in this case, our lunch gets lost, and for 3 weeks, darn, where did that bag of food go anyway? Well, we found it, and we opened them up, and with the kids in school, it's so amazing. They can write their name on that bag, and they, oh yeah, this is a sandwich I made. So they're very much associated with this practice. And we open up the sandwich first that has no bokashi on it. And oh boy, the green and the black and the colors that are coming out of the thing and the smell when you open it, oh boy, that is just something else. It's not much fun, as you might imagine. Now we go to the bokashi sandwich, and they open the bag and they're ready to think it's going to be big stink, just like the one that doesn't have bokashi. And yet, wow, it smells kind of sweet. And then they open it up, and then they take it out, and they open the sandwich, and they see that the lettuce still looks like lettuce, and the meat and the cheese are all intact, and they still look very much the same. And they've basically been fermented or pickled, and all children come up with the same conclusion as they experience this. And they all say, wow, I could eat this. And this is our innate intelligence, our innate microbial system inside us, telling us, yeah, you need something to eat? Man, this is going to be a good thing for you. So I really appreciate that it is really about overall health, and it's allowing our innate bodies to help us decide what is best for us to take in. And this is a great teaching tool, and kids from grade 1 will totally get this if you practice it in schools. I do believe it should be part of a practice in our Hawaiian schools. We take all of our ferment from the cafeterias and put it into the school gardens. They've done that to a degree in the Waianae side, and we'd love to see that throughout all the state gardens here in Hawaii. Bokashi layering systems are easy to work with and highly productive. And again, if we put kitchen waste from our kitchen schools, and then we are starting to supply our kitchen schools with food that is now grown here in Hawaii, thanks to organizations like the HFUU. I believe that we'll begin that cycle of greatness and goodness in our own land. So
Right on, Cab. Right
there's
on,
a lot
brother.
for it.
Hey, man, you know, I mean, it's so inspiring to not only hear you speak about it with such passion, but the vitality of your plants there that you have in all the slides and the video is just really, really amazing and beautiful, and it just moves the spirit, just naturally moves the spirit. I love your sandwich story. That's pretty that's pretty cool, man. And truly, the kids' innate intelligence, you know, before they get you know, couch potatoes and in the video games to the point to where they're not really thinking about the environment at all. They draw out of that innate intelligence. It's pretty cool.
Also,
some questions here, Kat.
Also, when we teach how to make bokashi, and I have like students and we have lunch, and I show them that you can actually eat it. You know, this is made on a food grade substrate. And so when I show them, wow, let's taste it. It's like a bread, you know, like that smells kind of good. And then I show them, yeah, I'm going to eat my product. How many people are going to eat their fertilizer?
That's
And
right.
so when they see me do that, they're sprinkling it on their soup and on their sandwiches, and they're just realizing how good it is. And again, their innate bodies are telling them, yeah, they smell it. They go, yeah, this is a good thing. Let's go.
Yep. There you go. Yeah, that's so wonderful. And so your humic structures are being developed there in your soil. It's evident. You know, we have always said, you know, we need to have more vegetables. I really appreciate that how little is needed to really grow the soil back to where you're getting that kind of vitality. And so bringing this more to the forefront is really cool, Cab. And so where can people get EM1?
It's available statewide. EM Hawaii distributes it throughout the state to many farming gardens and such. And EM Bokashi is also distributed in Kona, and they're here at the health food store as well up in Waimea. There's other bokashi producers out there, a few, which is really encouraged. You know, more people can make bokashi. It's just like making beer, wine, or cheese. Anybody can make it, and some's going to be different than others, but everybody can make it. It's not a big deal, and we encourage that.
Well, you know, I found out the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine, Doug Pittman out of Milani, and I didn't realize that his son is Ola Brew, because he was telling me he's taken all the beer mash. And are you making, have you made bokashi with beer mash?
So currently, that's where I'm at. I'm blessed to deal with the brew house up here, which is a world-class brewer and winning awards in Colorado and Belgium for their Belgian ale. So I've been hauling their brewery Spence for a time. And prior to that, I used to haul the Kona brewery Spence. When I made tomatoes years ago, I would haul their.
Nice.
And Dr. Higa actually reviewed the bokashi I made back then and gave me A+ on my bokashi made with Spence. So
it's not too wet, huh? Because I noticed the beer mash holds on to its moisture a lot longer, you know.
it is too. It is. You're right. It is too wet, and so there's a couple of different ways to deal with that. Yeah. So one way is to add some type of substrate that's already dry to get your proper 30 to 40% moisture level.
Okay.
And no matter what kind of product you're making as a substrate, we want to try to squeeze a handful of it and barely get a drop of liquid out. If I can
Cool.
get a drop of liquid out, it's too wet. So
Right.
it's, I need a moisture meter. My hand is the moisture meter.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That's great, Cab. And Cab, there's some questions. Let's see. Your contact information. Could we get your contact information in the chat, or we can pass it on to folks? Katie, could you do that? Can you get Cab's contact information so people?
Yes, of course.
Great. And then let's see. Craig had a question I'm trying to find here that had to do with taking out lead, and let's see, where is it? Here it is. Does EM Bokashi break down lead, asbestos, etc.?
I'm going to say breaking something down and encasing it and mummifying it, kind of combination thereof. So where it can, and the particles are small enough, it's going to drop it back down to an ionic situation, which will be actually helpful for a culture. And where it can't, it's going to go ahead and encase it and make it so it's non-interactive for the culture. And so that's the kind of breakdown we're really looking for. There's a bee missing off this.
Now, what is the difference between IMO and Bokashi as far as anaerobic, aerobic? What's the
Well, EM and
way people could use both?
right. I encourage people to learn all about Korean natural farming. I really do. If you have the time, the inclination, and the ability, wow, you become such an asset to the farming community at large. The reason I utilize EM particularly and Bokashi is that's what I learned first. Both Dr. Higa and Master Cho learned at about a similar time. They just took a little bit different paths on that.
Mhm.
And what I have found that farming is, well, it's challenging at times for us farmers. And so
Yeah.
anything that I can,
Thank
anything I can do to reduce my chances
That's right.
or increase my chances of success and reduce my chances of challenge, I want to do that. And
Yeah.
so in that, I found that EM Bokashi was a simpler way to go for me and to share, especially in consultations. It's difficult for me to share Korean natural farming, even in a week's worth of consultations with someone. However, I can set them up for EM Bokashi and the whole spray program in that week that I can walk away and feel confident that they're going to have good result and be successful. And then they can learn in their time about Korean natural farming. Maybe they start making some of their own IMO. Maybe they start making some of their own mixes and sprays. And that's just wonderful. That's absolutely really good stuff.
Yeah, what's really cool about just using microbial inoculants, from what I really love, is that you can go into this hard, like the tabletop kind of soil, and like you said, lay it down, put a mulch on top of it, come back a week or two later, and your spade goes right through. I mean, it's pretty mind blowing what microbial biomass does to the soil, because you always hear a lot of people complain about, where I can get good compost. They're always thinking compost as opposed to, being able to do microbial inoculants. And, compost, of course, is great. I just heard today from Bob Schaefer. He said that California now made it to where 400 cities have to compost all their food waste.
There you go.
And, so we're definitely on a direction. I'm so happy we have the Soil Health Initiative moving forward. Your wife Gail's involved in that collective, and it's a thing where soon I hope we'll be able to bring farmers all into it. As soon as we could get some traction on that, on the level to where we can get the exposure that the platform that we're working on provides. And so.
Yes, a few years ago at a university over here on the Big Island, we were talking about the kitchen waste from the Hawaiian Islands. And
Right.
not only, if we collected all that, not only would it be enough to feed our entire pig industry, but it'd also be enough to supply plus our whole agricultural industry. We currently have, products that are made out of fish, and also there's usually a 25 to more percentage of beef parts in that stuff, which is endorsed by the university. However, I'm concerned about that as far as its long-term endurance and its efficacy and viability. Where I think collecting kitchen waste is already proven and shown how to work, and put the system in place and get that thing going. And again, increasing that load instead of going into a landfill or off to a place where it's going to putrefy and turn into a problem. Let's turn it into a solution.
Cab, are you using any shredded cardboard in your garden? Because I know we
No,
had our brother man did a presentation down at Moona, and I got so high off it, I went and bought a cardboard shredder, and with a vision of trying to get it in each chapter so we can have community shredding days.
Yeah.
But I think Bokashi and shredded cardboard would be like hand in glove.
Well, it can be, but cardboard being a wood substrate is going to be a lot more sugar necessary to make that a quality. And back in the 90s, when we started Recycle Hawaii, for example, and we got the dump to change from, piling everything in one place to actually making a composting facility. We also learned back then, that cardboard is a great way to go. My challenge with the cardboard was that there are just so many different types of contaminants used in making cardboard around the world. Plus, there's a certain amount of plastic tape that might be involved. So there's a small amount of issues, but the bonus is that when you use the effective microorganisms, most of those things are going to be remediated. And if
Right.
they show up, there's going to be very minor.
Right.
So that's why I like the cardboard. And I think cardboard right now, for example, on the Big Island, it's a challenge. We have way too much cardboard coming in and we need to do something with it. If you could find clean, clear cardboard, which does exist, and they use it on most of the pallets that come in here, there's a piece on the bottom and a piece on the top. That stuff I think could make a really high quality kind of bokashi possibly.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines of helping to break down the cardboard, having the bokashi already made out of what you're doing, and then putting that like in conjunction with the shredded cardboard and worm bins, and or with your mulching. I've seen the effects of it in how it just melts, because of of all the pore space that microbes can inhabit there and such. But we have some really great opportunities, don't we, here? And this biomass machine that we live here in Hawaii with, when we go in and cut back stuff, it just comes back with a vengeance. And we take all that biomass and put it into the ground. We're really starting to cook with gas.
My grandmother was particularly fond of cardboard, and she would show me how the earthworms just love the tunnels that were made by that. And there's been gardens that I built with cardboard as a base, going right over grasses and then piling all my goodies, making a garden that's 2 feet deep, not more than 2 feet because it gets kind of hot, but as long as it's only 2 feet deep, I can use all fresh, raw materials. Nothing has been digested or fermented. And I can plant it the same day. As long as I keep it moist, that thing's going to grow and grow really well.
Nice.
So I'm very confident in that kind of application of the bokashi in place in static digestion. And basically, when I do that, let's say the bed's 4 feet wide and 2 feet high in the middle, I'm building an earthworm castle. So earthworm bins are great for gathering stuff and then putting it out. But if I make an earthworm castle, they're all coming there and doing that tilling and eating right on spot. And as long as I keep feeding that, they're still going to be there in the right quantities and numbers. And if the soil kind of slows down, you'll see it. There's less earthworms. They kind of go away. Put some more nutrients on there, and here they come again. Put bokashi, rings the dinner bell. Here we go.
And there's some big animals out there. I remember seeing, some of the worms, take up my whole forearm, and stretched out. Just some beautiful animals here on the island.
In that, we have beautiful earthworm castings in our garden.
Yes.
And there is a short video somewhere of me actually reviewing our earthworm castings, looking at the stack pile of how high it is. And it's the highest earthworm stack I've ever seen on any place on the planet. So I'm very impressed by that. And then for some reason or other, I realized that this concoction now contains all the micronutrients of my soil. It also contains the micronutrients digested by the earthworm. And so I couldn't help myself, but I ate that earthworm casting off my finger.
All right.
It's on Instagram, and it was Hawaii Royal Hemp Instagram. And so if you want to see somebody eating some earthworm poop, and I don't know why I do these things. It just was inspiring. So
well, it's keeping your youth about you. There's a question here. Cab, can EM help with the drinking water in Red Hill, Oahu? Seems like the military screwed up again with leaking fuel into the environment.
Oh my God, blessings on our water and all those people that are having to deal with this. We've known this has been going on for a very long time. I was retuned to this again today. When I first learned about it, I can't believe that we've been allowed this to go on. Yes, absolutely. If we were asking the military to do something about this, since they won't stop the leak of 3,000 gallons a month that goes on, if they would at least apply bokashi to the ground, at least start a bokashi the entire place, the entire facility, start putting bokashi on people's lands, bokashi in any water circulation that's going out to people, this can be part of the filtration system and clean up those. We know it's fuel. Everybody says it smells like fuel. You know, where is it? You know, we can clean that out of the water. So it needs another treatment actually to help get rid of that. And our current treatment plants can do it, but we just have to add in the Bokashi to get that, you know, really vigorous balance and aggressive thing going on, like we see in the Alawai Canal, how much cleaner it gets after you put it in.
Right. You know, it's interesting. The creator who brought this plane to the forefront for us to live on knew that the humans that were going to walk on it was going to be stupid. So, you know, we had systems in place to really mitigate our stupidity and ignorance in that respect. I mean, you know, it's been shown in history that when we don't know how to handle our feces, and when we, you know, use petrochemical poisons and such, it just goes to war with when we just need to collaborate and cooperate with nature. So I really appreciate, you know, you and your presentation tonight.
You said something really potent. I do want to share this. It's very important.
Yes.
There's a Bokashi toilet that's been created. Bokashi toilet, just like any kind of toilet you have at a event or anything. Only these were used at the Eclipse celebration in Oregon for 30,000 people. And we ended up with 650 totes of EM Bokashi liquid, that was all liquid. And after 3 weeks, it was certified E. coli free and could be applied as a nutrient fertilizer to the crop fields where the show was at.
How beautiful.
Then the last Burning Man they had, the same Bokashi toilets were used there. And so these toilets are not like the toilet we're used to here in Hawaii at all. They actually are completely smell free. They're stainless steel with 2 steps to go up into. There's a fan that pulls the smells through the container, so you never smell what was there before. The Bokashi syrup is caught below in a big tote, and it begins its immediate fermentation. And then that syrup is drained off as it fills up, and we put that into totes. And again, complete digestion, no particulate matter left over whatsoever, completely certifiable as a good fertilizer. So handling our waste and handling those things and doing something about it is really the solution here, and saying, yeah, we've got a way to go, and this is what we can do. If we did above ground digestion Bokashi toilets like we do there, our pollution would be reduced tremendously.
Maybe we could have Bokashi toilets at our next physical convention. Maybe we can get that set up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say yes,
Very cool.
absolutely. In fact, I'm looking at approaching one of the John companies here and just showing them the design and saying, you know, let's get to this, guys. You know, it is a little bit more work, so to speak, but the quality of the experience, how do I say, is so much better.
It's a potential gold mine for somebody to focus in on doing a business like that. It would be really well received. Yeah. Well, we could go on for hours. I know. I want to just be able to go enjoy my family tonight a little bit here, and I want to thank you, Bill, brother. And, you know, looking forward to you coming in with Gail to the convention next week. I want to encourage everybody to tune in December 9th through the 12th. Go on hfuu.org to register. It is a donation only event, so that means you need to donate something. Okay. Please be generous, but there's, you know, you donate what you can. The main thing is come, because there's going to be some incredible presentations. We're really excited about that. We're going to have all our chapter presidents in a retreat center for several days to just truly be able to work together collaboratively and cooperatively to bring HFUU forward into the next year. And you know, 90% of our chapter presidents are producers. So this is a farming organization that's truly about farmers leading it. And so we appreciate your support, everyone. Continue to be a member of HFUU, because numbers matter at the legislature. Katie, our membership chair, will give you such sweet aloha when you talk to her. She's such a great asset in that position she's in, because she emulates who we are as an organization. And so thank you very much, everybody. Cab, again, bless your heart, brother. Gail, thanks for getting all set up. Thank you, Vincent. And we'll see you guys next week. And thanks, everybody. This has been amazing 3 weeks of a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of mushroom, hemp, and soil health that I really am glad we did pre-convention offerings. So warmest aloha, everybody. Remember, stay positive and test negative, okay? Aloha.
Aloha.